At the edge of the world, where no man can survive unaided, some believe a secret empire was born. Antarctica, the last uncharted frontier. For centuries, it has fascinated explorers, scientists, and dreamers. But among all the myths and mysteries surrounding this frozen land, none is as enduring or as haunting as the tale of the Nazis' secret base beneath the Antarctic ice. A base where Hitler's elite scientists supposedly escaped at the end of World War II. A base where flying saucers, genetic experiments, and forgotten technology were said to have been developed, hidden from the world beneath layers of eternal frost. But was it real? Or was it the ultimate illusion, a legend born from fragments of truth and oceans of fear? This is the story of Base 211, the so-called Nazi fortress in Antarctica, and the chilling line between history and myth. To understand the myth, we must begin with the man at its center, Adolf Hitler. From the beginning, Hitler saw the world through a lens of destiny and mythology. He wasn't just fighting for power. He believed he was restoring an ancient, almost mystical order. He surrounded himself with men who shared his fascination for the occult and ancient civilizations, men like Heinrich Himmler, leader of the SS, who created the NNRB, a pseudo-scientific organization dedicated to uncovering the lost origins of the Aryan race. They searched Tibet, the Himalayas, the Arctic, looking for remnants of Atlantis. For mythical beings, for proof that the Aryan race had once ruled the earth. To them, science and myth were one. And so, the idea of venturing to Antarctica, the most remote and untouched continent on the planet, fit perfectly with their vision. If there were hidden lands, lost worlds, or ancient powers, surely they lay at the bottom of the earth. In December 1938, the legend began. The German battleship Schwabenland, under the command of Captain Alfred Richer, left Hamburg with a team of scientists, military officers, and 2 massive Dornier flying boats. Their mission: to explore a region of Antarctica known as Queen Maud Land, a vast icy desert claimed by Norway. Officially, the purpose was economic, to find new sources of whale oil, vital for German industry. But whispers suggested another motive: territorial expansion and strategic bases far from enemy eyes. When the Schwabenland reached the Antarctic coast in early 1939, the expedition began mapping huge sections of land, dropping aluminum swastika-emblazoned markers across the ice to claim territory in Hitler's name. They photographed nearly 600,000 square kilometers and discovered ice-free mountain ranges rising from the glaciers. An anomaly that fascinated scientists. This region was christened Neuschwabenland, New Swabia, built temporary camps, gathered meteorological data, and reportedly drilled into the ice. But what they found, or what they brought back, remains a mystery. After 3 months, the expedition returned to Germany. The official report was thin, routine, almost boring. But rumors began to swirl within intelligence circles, rumors that the Nazis had discovered something far more than just rock and ice. Then came the war. As Germany plunged into global conflict, its Antarctic project was seemingly forgotten. But after the war's end in 1945, strange reports began to emerge, whispers of U-boats fleeing toward the South Atlantic, long after Germany had surrendered. On June 10, 1945, 2 German submarines, U-530 and U-977, surfaced off the coast of Argentina, weeks after the fall of Berlin. Their crews claimed they had fled to avoid capture. But Allied intelligence was suspicious. Where had they been for so long? And what, or who, had they delivered before surrendering? Rumors spread that these U-boats had carried high-ranking Nazis, perhaps even Hitler himself, to a secret base in Antarctica. Others claimed they had delivered scientific equipment and mysterious cargo to an underground facility, Base 211. No proof was ever found. But the idea took root. In the chaotic aftermath of the war, with missing Nazis, missing documents, and missing technology, people were ready to believe anything. If the story had ended there, it might have remained a footnote in conspiracy circles. But then came something far stranger. In 1946, less than a year after the war, the United States Navy launched Operation Highjump, one of the largest Antarctic expeditions in history. Led by Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, the operation involved 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and over 4,000 personnel. Officially, It was a scientific mission to test cold weather equipment. But many wondered, why such a massive military presence? For 6 months, Byrd's task force explored and mapped vast areas of Antarctica. But the mission ended abruptly, far earlier than scheduled. Byrd was rushed back to the United States. And then he said something that would ignite decades of speculation. In an interview with a Chilean newspaper, El Mercurio, Byrd warned that the U.S. must be prepared to defend itself from flying objects that could move from pole to pole at incredible speeds. Flying objects from the poles. Theories exploded overnight. Had Byrd's forces encountered something in Antarctica? Remnants of the Nazi war machine? Had they discovered Base 211, hidden beneath the ice, defended by advanced German technology? Or was it just a misunderstanding, the words of a tired man taken out of context? In the 1950s and 60s, as the Cold War deepened, the story of the Nazi Antarctic base transformed from rumor to full-blown legend. Writers and researchers began connecting dots, some real, many imagined. They linked U-boat disappearances, Hitler's fascination with the occult, Operation Highjump, and the sudden creation of the Antarctic Treaty in 1959, which banned all military activity on the continent. To believers, this was proof governments were hiding something. Why else would the world's superpowers agree to keep Antarctica off limits? Books like The Morning of the Magicians and The Flying Saucers of the Third Reich claimed that Nazi scientists had developed advanced aircraft and energy technologies, perhaps even the first UFOs. Some claimed these disks escaped to Antarctica, others to South America, or even to the moon. By the 1970s, the myth had merged with UFO lore, becoming part of a larger narrative that remnants of the Third Reich had not died. They had gone underground, preparing in secret for a new dawn. So what makes this story endure? Perhaps it's because it lies at the perfect crossroads of truth and imagination. There really was a German expedition to Antarctica. There really were U-boats that fled south after the war. There really was an enormous U.S. military operation soon after. And yet none of it proves the existence of a hidden Nazi base. Historians argue that Base 211 was never more than a myth, a product of Cold War paranoia, misinterpreted events, and mankind's endless hunger for mystery. No evidence of underground facilities, secret technology, or post-war Nazi colonies has ever been found in Antarctica. But even now, explorers and conspiracy theorists continue to search the icy continent, hoping to uncover what the official records deny. Because deep down, perhaps we all want to believe that some secrets remain hidden, that beneath the eternal ice, history still holds its breath. It's May 1945. Berlin is a smoldering ruin. In his bunker, Hitler is gone. The official story is suicide, but as the Third Reich crumbled, a new legend was born, the legend of the escape. Millions of Nazi officials and sympathizers vanished into the chaos. While some disappeared into Europe's forests or fled across oceans, others followed a more organized path, a serpent's trail leading out of the ashes. This was Operation Odessa. Allied forces were stunned to find thousands of high-ranking Nazis missing after the war, not just soldiers, but scientists, SS officers, and members of Hitler's inner circle. Where did they go? The Odessa Network, an underground railroad run by ex-SS officers and sympathizers, smuggled them out of Europe. Using forged passports and fake identities, they found new homes in South America. Argentina, Chile, and Brazil became safe havens for the ghosts of the Reich. Adolf Eichmann, the architect of the Holocaust, lived quietly in Buenos Aires for years before his capture. But what about the others? The scientists, the strategists, the men of power who were never found? Rumors spread that some went further south than Argentina, to Patagonia, and then beyond. In the years following the war, strange reports trickled into intelligence channels. German submarines spotted near the Antarctic Circle, secret landings, convoys disappearing into the white void. In 1946, the Chilean Navy reported radar anomalies, fast-moving craft, and impossible weather. The British quietly built research huts that doubled as observation posts. Officially, they were studying ice. Unofficially, they were watching for something else. Then came the map. In 1952, a captured Nazi chart surfaced. It allegedly showed vast underground caverns beneath Queen Maud Land, connected by geothermal vents that could keep large areas ice-free. Skeptics called it fantasy. Believers called it proof. Proof that Base 211 was really an underground fortress. It's powered by the Earth's hidden heat, where the Reich could live on, unseen. But why Antarctica? Of all the places on Earth, why choose the most hostile? For the Nazi ideologues, it was symbolic. Antarctica represented purity, untouched, unspoiled, a frozen blank slate where a new, pure civilization could rise from defeat. And practically, it was the most remote, isolated place imaginable, far beyond the reach of the Allies. If you could build beneath the ice, you'd have the ultimate concealment. Some theories even claimed the Nazis had found ancient tunnels or lost technology buried there, maybe even remnants of Atlantis. It sounds absurd, but in an age of atomic dreams and psychic warfare, nothing seemed impossible. While the Americans prepared their massive Operation Highjump, the British had their own secret mission, Operation Tabarin. Disguised as a scientific project, its real purpose was surveillance. British intelligence feared Nazi U-boats were using Antarctic waters as refueling stations. Small, isolated teams were sent to desolate outposts like Deception Island and Hope Bay. They braved the cold, listening for coded transmissions and tracking strange objects on the horizon. By 1945, they'd found nothing conclusive. But the very fact that the Allies were searching so intently fueled the legend. There must have been something there worth finding. Argentine archives tell of supply ships leaving European ports in the final months of the war, all heading south. Their manifests were vague: scientific equipment, machinery, colonial materials. Many of these ships never reached their destinations. Some were sunk, others just vanished. Witnesses in Buenos Aires reported seeing crates unloaded from U-boats at night, guarded by armed men in black uniforms. When asked what was inside, the only answer was, "For the New World." By the time the Allies began investigating, the trail was literally cold. Decades later, satellite images revealed what the 1938 Schwabenland expedition had claimed to find. Vast mountain ranges hidden beneath the ice of Queen Maud Land. At their heart lies the Mühly-Kaufmann Range. With towering peaks and deep valleys that remain ice-free due to geothermal activity, was this the site of Base 211, or just a coincidence that fit the story? Modern scientists admit that subglacial lakes and volcanic heat could create habitable pockets under the ice. With German engineering and a desperate will to survive, could they have built a base there in 1945? It's possible. But possible isn't the same as true. When captured German officers were interrogated, most were silent. But a few made cryptic remarks. One SS commander reportedly boasted, "There is a land beyond the ice where we will rebuild the Reich. You will never find us there." Most dismissed it as the delusion of a defeated man. But the statement echoed through time, adding another layer to the myth. Stories claimed Martin Bormann, Hitler's deputy, escaped to a hidden Antarctic enclave. Others believed Joseph Mengele, the Angel of Death, continued his horrific experiments there before moving to Brazil. None of these tales were ever proven, but every missing man, every unanswered question, became fuel for the fire. As the Cold War began, Antarctica became a new kind of battlefield. The US, the Soviet Union, and Britain launched competing expeditions, each suspicious of the other's motives. Nuclear tests were conducted nearby. Bases appeared on maps only to vanish the next year, and then, suddenly, silence. In 1959, 12 nations signed the Antarctic Treaty, declaring the continent a zone of peace and science, banning all military activity forever. To most, it was a triumph of diplomacy. To conspiracy theorists, it was the ultimate cover-up. Why, they asked? Would the world's superpowers agree to make Antarctica off-limits, unless there was something under the ice that none of them wanted revealed? The echoes of this story refused to fade. In 1978, a Soviet research team detected unexplained magnetic anomalies beneath Queen Maud Land. In the 1990s, satellite radar revealed vast, strangely geometric structures deep below the surface, probably natural, but the rumors surged again. Documentaries explored Nazi UFOs and underground hangars. Internet forums turned Base 211 into an epic legend. Even today, people find strange openings in the ice on Google Earth and call them entrances to the hidden base. Experts dismiss them as shadows or natural caves. But for the true believers, that's exactly what the powers that be would want you to think. So what's the truth? There really was a German Antarctic expedition. There really were U-boats fleeing south. There really was a massive military operation called Highjump. And there really is a treaty protecting Antarctica from prying eyes. When you combine these facts with our fascination for hidden power and forbidden knowledge, you get a story that can feel more real than reality itself. The myth of Base 211 is a powerful one, not just because it's about Nazis, because it speaks to our deepest desire for mystery, for the belief that some parts of our world remain undiscovered. Perhaps it's only a myth, but myths have a strange way of hiding pieces of reality within them. Now, let's fast forward to the end of the war, to a mission so massive and so strange, it fuels conspiracy theories to this day. This is the story of Operation Highjump. The year was 1946. The world was catching its breath after years of war, but a new kind of tension was rising between the United States and the Soviet Union. While most of America celebrated victory, a massive naval armada was quietly preparing for an unprecedented journey to the coldest place on Earth. On December 2nd, Task Force 68 set sail from Virginia. This was no small expedition. It included 13 ships, 33 aircraft, and over 4,000 men. Leading them was Rear Admiral Richard E. Byrd, America's most celebrated polar explorer. Officially, the mission, codenamed Operation Highjump, was about testing cold weather equipment, training personnel, and solidifying U.S. claims in Antarctica. But behind the official story, rumors swirled. Was it a military reconnaissance mission to hunt for hidden German activity? Or was it something more aggressive? A search and destroy operation? Richard Evelyn Byrd was a man who lived and breathed exploration. He'd flown over the North Pole in 1926 and the South Pole in 1929. He was a hero, a patriot, and a man who understood that the world's last unknown frontiers held immense strategic value. Before departing, he told reporters, "Antarctica is the last great frontier. Whoever controls it, controls the world's future." Those words would soon take on a much more chilling meaning. As the fleet sailed south, the seas grew violent. Giant icebergs loomed like silent, frozen fortresses. For weeks, planes launched from the aircraft carrier USS Philippine Sea, flying reconnaissance missions over Queen Maud Land, the very same territory the Nazis had named Neuschwabenland. Crews mapped mountains and glaciers, but they also reported bizarre phenomena. Strange magnetic readings that sent their compasses spinning, unexplained equipment failures, and blinding, mysterious flashes of light coming from beneath the ice. At first, these were dismissed as natural occurrences. But then, things got weirder. Several aircraft crashed under mysterious circumstances. Pilots began reporting strange metallic disks rising from the snow and accelerating with incredible speed. One report, which was quickly classified, described an object that moved faster than any aircraft known to man. Officially, these were just tragic accidents caused by bad weather and mechanical problems. But among the crew, whispers began to spread. Whispers of a secret battle being fought in the Antarctic skies. Did Byrd's forces encounter something they weren't prepared for? The answer might lie in a controversial interview. In 1947, a Chilean newspaper published a conversation with Admiral Byrd upon his return. In it, he was quoted as saying, "The greatest danger we face is an enemy that can fly from pole to pole at incredible speeds." This quote was an absolute bombshell. What enemy was he talking about? The Soviets? Or something else entirely? For believers in the Nazi base theory, this was the ultimate proof. Byrd, they claimed, had confronted advanced German technology, the remnants of the Third Reich's wonder weapons hidden beneath the ice. They talked of circular craft, the so-called Haunebu or Vril flying saucers, capable of vertical takeoff and physics-defying speed. Is any of this true? There is no hard verifiable evidence. Only scattered testimonies, unconfirmed reports, and a lot of speculation. But one fact remains undeniable. Operation Highjump ended abruptly, months earlier than planned. The entire task force was recalled to the United States in early 1947. The official reason was severe weather and logistical challenges. But to many it looked like a retreat. When the mission ended, much of its data was sealed. Byrd's personal journal, a potential treasure trove of information, disappeared for decades, only resurfacing in partial, edited form years later. The following year, a smaller U.S. mission, Operation Windmill, returned to Antarctica. Its official goal was to retrieve photographic data from Highjump. No mention was ever made of enemy contact. However, internal Navy memos from the period show a sudden increase in funding for polar defense research, specifically against unconventional aerial threats. Coincidence? Maybe. But in the shadow of a new Cold War, every government was scrambling for a technological edge. As the years passed, the legend of Operation Highjump grew wilder. By the 1950s, fringe writers were claiming that Byrd's fleet had engaged in a full-scale battle with unknown forces. They described flying discs emerging from hidden openings in the ice, firing energy weapons that melted steel, and causing American planes to vanish in midair. In this version of the story, Byrd's fleet barely escaped with heavy undocumented losses, which the U.S. government covered up to prevent global panic. Of course, there's no official Navy record of any such battle. But for conspiracy theorists, the absence of evidence wasn't evidence of absence. After all, if something that world-changing had happened, wouldn't it be the most classified secret of all? Then, in 1957, the story took another bizarre twist. A document, purported to be the secret diary of Admiral Byrd, began circulating. It didn't just describe a battle, it described a flight beyond the South Pole, into a hidden, lush world at the center of the Earth, illuminated by an inner sun. The diary claimed Byrd was guided there by a strange force and met an advanced race of beings who warned humanity about the dangers of nuclear war. Historians and Byrd's own family have long dismissed this diary as an elaborate hoax. But for believers, it was the final piece of the puzzle, connecting the Nazis, the flying discs, and a hidden world, all beneath the Antarctic ice. So what do modern historians make of all this? Most see Operation Highjump as exactly what the government claimed it was, a large-scale military and scientific exercise. The crashes were tragic accidents, common in such a harsh environment. The magnetic anomalies were natural, and the early withdrawal was due to budget cuts and the brutal Antarctic winter. And yet, you can't deny how strange the whole affair was. Why send such a massive military force on a scientific mission? Why the sudden, unexplained withdrawal? And why did Richard Byrd, a man who had dedicated his life to exploration, return home so changed, so reluctant to ever speak publicly about Antarctica again? He remained a loyal, disciplined officer until his death in 1957, taking his secrets with him. But the world never stopped asking, what did Admiral Byrd really see in the ice? The story doesn't end there. As the Cold War intensified, UFO sightings became a global phenomenon. Many of these reports describe disc-shaped craft eerily similar to the alleged Nazi designs like the Honeybu. Rumors persisted that German engineers who escaped after the war continued their work, perhaps in a hidden Antarctic refuge. Could Byrd have encountered their descendants? We'll likely never know for sure. But what's undeniable is that the idea of Nazi super technology survived the war. It didn't need a real base to exist. It lived on as a powerful myth, influencing UFO culture and Cold War paranoia for decades. In that sense, even if Base 211 was pure fiction, its legend shaped how we imagined the future. By the early 1950s, Operation Highjump had faded from public memory. Official documentaries praised its scientific achievements while carefully sidestepping the controversy. When Byrd testified before Congress in 1947, his words were measured and cryptic. Antarctica is essential to the security of the United States, he stated. We must be alert to developments there. That was it. No mention of enemies, no flying discs, no secret battles. But for those who believe, that very silence spoke volumes. Thank you for watching this installment. In our final part, we'll look at what modern science and exploration have uncovered in Antarctica, and try to finally answer the question, was there ever a Nazi base hidden in the ice? Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon so you don't miss the conclusion.